Hello everyone, we are at P. Joseph Raab Park here in York County from 1854 to 1888. What you see behind me there, about 72 acres of land, was an active ironworks. They had mines, adits, surface pits, and there's actually used to be even a shaft, I think about a 100-foot shaft, right down there behind me. Although that's filled up now. And what they got out of the ground here was called Codorus ore, which is a high quality iron ore. I was here back in, I think, October. I started to shoot an episode, but I was never able to finish that one. So we're back today to check out the main feature, the main underground feature here at the park, which is this big adit, which is a horizontal tunnel going into the hillside, going under the ridge here, that they would have blasted open to access that good stuff, that Codorus ore. Let's get down just under the entrance here. It is raining, although not hard. And it's a little chilly. It's supposed to be warmer today. One thing I like about the adits and the mines here is that they have these cool ceilings. I guess that's condensation. Over the years, it kind of makes the bedrock white. I think I've done 3 videos here already. 2 of them I was looking for the rabbit hole, and then the 3rd one I came here with Lewis where we explored the rabbit hole, and we went in there, we checked that out. It's got 2 levels. It's just a short thing, not very long. I'll put that link up on the screen right now. Stick around to the end. I'll also leave it on the end screen. This one is nice because it's got this big entrance and you can just walk right in down to the bottom there, and you'll get a good idea of what it feels like to be in here. And the ceiling on this one is pretty high. Let's say 35, 40 feet. So the Codorus ore was found in quartzite veins that run all up and down this ridge. You can see the remnants of the veins that they were mining in this adit right here. All this white stuff here. If you do come here to check this thing out yourself, just be careful when you're climbing down this slope, because if it's wet, a lot of these rocks have very slippery surfaces. Because you don't want to tumble down this pile and wind up down here with a broken leg. And that's what it looks like once you're in a little bit. It doesn't go in very far, maybe 150 feet. But it's far enough to get a feel for what it's like to be in one of these things. Up there on the ceiling, you should be able to see blotches of white. The whole thing is kind of gray, but those white blotches you see there, pretty sure that's the quartzite. The end of it is right back there, and there's like a little alcove, and we're gonna climb up this slope here and check that out. I wonder if the ore carts would have been stopped right there, and they would have had tracks coming out. They would have been pulled by donkeys or some type of work animal. I kind of think that this pile was not necessarily as steep as it is now. So when they kind of decommissioned the whole thing, this stuff was either put in here or fell in here, because that kind of seems like a steep slope to go up with a little ore cart there, as heavy as they would have been. In other words, it might have been much more of a straight shot out of this adit to where they then had another series of rails going down the hollow here. I think it's called Strickler Hollow. From there, it went down, I think, a mile or a half a mile down a gravity railroad and went off to the local iron furnaces to produce, cannonballs, stoves, pots, all the typical things that you would make at an iron furnace. There's the alcove. It's right up there. We're going to climb up there. Coming down the side here, you see there's even a little bit of flowing water coming down that channel, which leads right up to that alcove, which is about 20 feet above where we are right now. After the whole thing closed down in 1888, you would have had all these open mines and adits, and there was that shaft. And then in the 1900s, there was a landfill up on top of the ridge over there. And if you walk up there today, you can still see spots where there's old bottles and stuff on the ground. I have read comments on various videos about the mines here to the effect of back in the 60s and the 70s, as a teenager, people would come up here and they'd spend the whole day up here exploring the mines, hanging out. There's a creek down there, so you could splash around in the creek. There was a shaft here. I think it was about 100 feet. And according to the research that I did, that was the last big feature that they created before the whole thing was abandoned. They thought that they could dig down and intersect maybe another large quartzite vein. That shaft has been filled in because it was just very dangerous. But I think if you came here back in the middle of the last century, it was still there, and people used to go down into that shaft. This whole place basically used to be like a big playground. So this is what the alcove looks like once you're up here. It doesn't go back very far. Maybe 15 feet from the back wall to where the lip starts. I wouldn't trust this. It's tied around a metal spike. It's in the ground. But you don't know when this thing could pull out, or how long these have been here, how much weight they can hold. The most extensive mines on park property are gated though, and that's mainly to protect the bats, because they serve as a hibernaculum for them. There is a local man named Jerry Jones who periodically leads trips into those other adits, which are on the other side of the creek over there. And I think one of them goes back quite far, hundreds of feet. So if the quartzite vein ran roughly in line with the adit itself, and that was the final working face, they would blast stuff there. They must have tossed it down there into the ore carts, and then the ore carts were pulled out that way. And like I said, I think that this was not quite as steep as that. They probably maybe filled that in at some point, dumped a lot of stuff there. My question is, would they just keep going straight back into the ridge? Or at some point, would they also blast up the floor, because there could be ore underneath our feet right now? From the bottom there to the edge of the alcove here is probably 20, 25 feet vertical distance. So there would be a lot of material right here. Maybe they blasted out the alcove, and then once they got back far enough, they would then start blasting the floor and sending that stuff out there. There's quite a bit of information on the park and all the old mine works and everything online. Just Google it and you'll find a bunch of stuff. I like coming here mainly for the atmosphere you get when you're up here, and also the visuals. But the history is also very, very interesting. On the end screen, I'll leave a couple links to a few of my other videos that I shot here. Hope you guys had a good time. I know I surely did. I'll see everyone in the next episode.